Morning, everyone. There's a couple of facts you need to know before I start. The man standing before you is probably the worst person in the world to deliver a presentation like this, but we'll blame Peter for that. And it's going to come across as a bit of a sales pitch, and I'm going to try and not make it that way, but it probably comes down to the fact that I'm probably #1 fan of EnergySys, and it's very impressive from my point of view. So keeping up with hydrocarbon allocation in an ever-changing world. And it's all about change. Change is happening everywhere. It's affecting us whether we like it or not. And from personal experience, the kind of changes that have been thrust upon me in the past, it's new developments, tiebacks, you get engineering necessities, you get bits of kit that fall over. We've had instances where production profiles have been completely different to what was indicated and forecast, so there's been changes required to deal with that. This allocation philosophy changes, discovery of errors, some self-inflicted, some inherited. We get replacement metering systems, obviously, we get software upgrades, we get system upgrades, even Windows upgrades can have effects. New partners, new vendors, new management, new people, square pegs into round holes, new ideas, and pipe dreams have all derived or driven a change in some way, or a desire for change. And the list goes on, and there's nothing new in any of it. And we have to evolve wherever possible. What I've achieved over the past few years, which I was rarely able to do when I worked for other operators and other jobs, was respond positively to requests for change. Come from all different directions of the business, all corners, and sometimes that was the recipients of the data, the stakeholders of the reports, whether it's our finance people or reservoir people, all just asking for, can you do this, can you do this? And in times gone by, what I found myself saying consistently was, I was apologising, I was shrugging my shoulders, and I was saying, well, no, we can't do that. Who's going to pay for this work? Can you ask IT to do it? State that the costs would preclude the change, or the costs would make the cost of the change would outweigh the benefits of the change. And it's little things like that would just go on. And now I find myself saying things like, let me think about that. We can do that. What's the deadline for this? And we achieve a lot. We can complete the work and hand over reports or give people access to the data they were wanting to see. And if my job in Taqa hadn't given me the ability to make these small changes, I think we would be in a worse place as a business, in terms of a significantly increased budget, loss of control over timing, and providing a poorer service to those stakeholders who rely on this function. And it goes without saying that EnergySys has allowed me to achieve a hell of a lot of these goals. Things that were a massive headache previously, where if it was essential that something was done, some data was delivered, you'd have some wacky kind of offline workaround solution, or you just wouldn't be able to do it. Configuration. I'm going to talk about configuration. It's what I've been dragged here, kicking and screaming. There's been a lot of pressure over the years to get me here to do this, but it's building the objects and the tables and implementing a spreadsheet in a process to do exactly what I want. And it is without doubt one of the most powerful tools that I've ever worked with. And there are limitations, this well-known limitations of EnergySys, but they're inconsequential compared with what can be delivered. And I'm quite confident to stand here and state that there are no boundaries to what you can achieve. We all know how to build spreadsheets. It's child's play, and I would probably use the same expression to describe the whole configuration application in EnergySys. Excuse me. For simple processes anyway, and after a bit of practice, there's this careful spreadsheet design which obviously helps. There's honed Excel skills, and if you can achieve just the simplest of spreadsheets, you can generally achieve a hell of a lot. The functions that I find myself using over and over again that can do really powerful things are, like matching, indexing, using indirect, and you can achieve just about anything when you're sort of nesting these formula with mathematical equations and usual kind of text manipulation things. As I say, it's if you're good with spreadsheets, then it's very useful. The one thing that I absolutely love about Excel is it knows what day it is. So I tend to, when I build a process, I go, well, why do I have to think what day it is or what month it is? There's always a kind of a date parameter, input parameter, and I'm quite often thinking, what day is it? What month is it I'm working? Am I working on provisional accounts or working on final accounts for the previous month? And you can configure Excel to kind of do that thinking for you, because it's like, I'm like many users. I just forget what day it is I'm working on. So I'm going to talk about a couple of examples. And one of them is within Taqa, there's a 24-hour shift team that there's 5 individuals. They have various ages and they work on rotation. And whilst they all bring really diverse abilities to the job, they also bring a fair amount of challenges as well. Their primary role is the Brent system pipeline, looking after that, dealing with emergencies, medical evacuations, all this kind of stuff. So trivial subjects like allocation on certain days don't feature very highly, which is unfortunate because that's one of the jobs they're supposed to be doing. And I was very conscious that we had to keep this whole thing quite simple for them to run. And when you're coming back from 4 weeks off shift, to sort of walk into the job on a Wednesday morning and start dealing with allocation, then it's often sort of prone to problems. But what they do now is we've got 5 assets they kind of do a daily allocation for, and they pull one Excel file it's got some MS query that brings all the meter data in, and they send it. They don't even have to kind of find the file to upload, which is one option. They email it into the system, and they don't need to do anything else. If it's a successful outcome, then what appears in the calculation log is about 25 different processes, and it's done a whole suite of things. It's validated the 1,500 or so meter points. It's done conversion of data where conversion is needed. It applies mismeasurements. It transfers data, kind of transfers it from just a big list of data and sorts it into oil, gas, water, well data, things like that, all in separate tables. And the validation, if it's successful, it goes on to call the allocations. So it just pops through all the allocations, and all these separate processes or separate spreadsheets are all within this one calculation log. Might have been handy to have shown that, but I don't have it to hand. But this is the point that it's important to get across. We talk about these processes, but they're just workbooks, and you can do so much. They're either delivering data back into the system, or we use them quite a lot for giving us reports. There's a front sheet which has got the kind of presentation you want, and a whole bunch of other sheets that have got the data being delivered. And the one thing is that, to go back to the Excel knowing the date, things like reports know when, or the process knows when it's a Monday, so the process generates weekly reports as well as the kind of usual daily ones. And it just takes all the pressure off these system operators and lets them get on with the job. And this is an important function of EnergySys, that we can chain these processes together. It's incredibly powerful. One process can call another, which could call. It's almost like object-oriented programming, and go away and do a whole bunch of different things. So you can have as many chain processes as there is rows in a spreadsheet, which is a great function if you want to rerun lots of allocations. You can configure a spreadsheet to do that, and we quite often do lots of reruns for various reasons. Another example is, it was a bad one. We inherited a problem. Not so much a problem, it was Cormorant Alpha. It has some gas coming off that goes through a system and gets fed back in and drops out liquid somewhere. It's recycled, and nobody really knows what happens to this liquid, but it was always split between two sources. And there's various people looked at this over the years and discovered that it's probably not doing what it's supposed to do. It's taking some hours in different modes that are running on the platform, but then it's applying these polynomial coefficients, and nobody in Taqa knows anything about them. We've kind of gone back to the original vendors that were involved, and they kind of pointed to somebody in Shell who's no longer there. So it's a huge headache for us, and it seems to be costing us quite a bit of money, because it's product that's going to a PRT paying field when it should, we think, going to a non-PRT paying field. So there was a process engineer tasked with sorting this out, and the first question he was asking me was, well, I need to know these quantities of NGL for the different modes. And it's a kind of thing where we just don't have that. It's not something that's produced by the allocation. Its calculations are within their intermediate steps. But because we've got a system that we can manipulate so easily, we were able to go in there and obviously knew where the cells were, and create an object within EnergySys and basically transfer that data to the object. It gave us the ability to just go back and rerun a year and a half's worth of data, and then I was able to present the theoretical NGL volumes for this process engineer. So we're kind of at the stage now where we're still trying to fathom out how to do it, and there's a possibility we might have to go back and rerun quite a few other days in the future, but this one's going to rumble on. The other thing is, I'm going to talk about our third-party ventures. We don't have very many. North Cormorant got 3 new fields from late 2012, and I firmly believe that after the kind of allocation philosophy their design costs were sorted out, the actual implementation in EnergySys was a palatable and affordable solution for all the parties. There was a third field that was kind of thrust upon us in very short notice, which unsurprisingly was a communication breakdown. They forgot to tell the allocation people that this was coming along. So again, it was a relatively simple thing to implement the changes after working around a few misconceptions. The last example we talk about is our ETS, which is Emission Trading Scheme. It's CO2 trading. This is all carried out within the system, and apart from these huge calculations, one of the things we wanted was to get the gas compositions as samples taken offshore. They're sent into an external lab. They produce reports, and there's quite a few of them pop into our system or are delivered to us now. So we had a specific process to extract the data. It was a kind of crazy spreadsheet report that used to come from SGS. I can mention names, I guess. It was just the format they issued the report in. So our system was configured to do that, and then all of a sudden our powers that be decided to change the lab contract. So it was Intertek. We had a new report, and again it was a simple case of going in and looking at this spreadsheet that imports the data and making a few changes on that, a few tweaks. It actually was simpler, but it was a very quick and speedy recovery from reports that were changing, and people had kind of forgotten to tell us that this was happening. It was just all of a sudden these reports were coming through from a different lab, and now the process is actually the Intertek are able to send the emails, send the reports straight into EnergySys, because it can receive emails and process the emails. Intertek are doing that. The process then does some validation and checks various things, and can actually, it now sends emails out to the people that need to know in Taqa. It responds to the people that have sent it in from Intertek to say whether it's a good sample or not. And it's just one of those other wonderful objects in EnergySys where a process knows what to do when it knows to send emails when this object is used. And the data that we've, hang on a second, the ETS data, what we do with it is I don't know if anyone else here has to deal with this, but it kind of has to go into CSV format file, and it's just a sheet on the end of the workbook that we extract and detach and populate a website with. It's Taqa, there's the company that do it. So we've had to this was all brought up to date. There was a chap recently, just on Thursday there, said to me, right, we've got all the data run up to May. He said, I need to know whether to buy some more CO2 credits. So could you tell me where we are with the total CO2 numbers? And it was a kind of a realization that we weren't actually storing this data. It was just it was going in a CSV file, and it was being reported to Taqa. And he said, no, I don't want to go into the Taqa website if you've not got that to hand. So it was a kind of, I wouldn't say a 5-minute job, but within an hour I was able to think about how we're going to process this, and basically just take, as the process ran, it was taking the data, the CO2 numbers, and populating an object. And the configuration of the screens meant that this guy could then log into EnergySys and see the data he was wanting to see. And it was so simple to do. It was an existing process. It was just